continuous news live from Islamabad. I'm Jawad Tehami and these are the headlines. In Vienna, the United States and Iran have started talks through EU intermediaries as they seek to revive the 2015 nuclear deal. Iran has overstepped the accord's limits on its nuclear program in response to Washington's withdrawal from the deal in 2018. On Monday, a U.S. State Department spokesman said Washington is ready to review sanctions if Iran comes into compliance with the deal. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has arrived in Pakistan on a two-day official visit aimed at boosting ties between the two countries. According to Pakistan's Foreign Office, he will call on Prime Minister Imran Khan besides holding delegation-level talks with his counterpart Shah Mahmood Qureshi. Israeli troops have shot dead a Palestinian after accusing him of trying to ram his car into them at a checkpoint in the occupied West Bank. His wife, who sustained bullet wounds in the incident, disputes the military's accusation. Palestinian officials say they may raise the incident at the International Criminal Court. India has reported nearly 97,000 new COVID-19 infections and 446 deaths in the last 24 hours. Meanwhile, Pakistan has registered over 100 COVID-19 deaths and nearly 4,000 cases overnight. In Pakistan, on-campus classes for students till grade 8 in districts affected by coronavirus will remain suspended till 28th of April. Globally, the virus has claimed over 2.85 million lives and infected over 131 million others. And in sports, Tokyo Olympic organizers have postponed a water polo test event due to coronavirus pandemic. The event was scheduled for this weekend and now might be pushed back to May or June as Japan struggles to stage the games amid a raging pandemic. This comes hours after North Korea announced it will not attend the Tokyo Games because of the coronavirus concerns. The Olympics are due to open on the 23rd of July. Those are the headlines and detailed stories right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and now for the news in detail. In Vienna, the United States and Iran are set to begin indirect talks aimed at bringing the two countries into full compliance with the 2015 nuclear deal. Iran has overstepped the accord's limits on its nuclear program in response to Washington's withdrawal from the accord in 2018. On Monday, a U.S. State Department spokesman said Washington is ready to review sanctions if Iran comes into compliance with the deal. He said the U.S. will not entertain any unilateral concessions to induce Iran to a better place. In Afghanistan, the Taliban claimed that they have killed at least 6 policemen at a security checkpost in Nangarhar province. In a tweet, a Taliban spokesman said the group also seized a huge cache of weapons and ammunition. This comes a day after the White House said President Joe Biden needs more time to make a decision on the withdrawal of the troops from Afghanistan. It said the U.S. is finding it hard to meet the May 1st deadline due to logistical reasons. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has arrived in Pakistan on a two-day official visit. According to Pakistan's Foreign Office, he will hold separate meetings with Prime Minister Imran Khan and Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi. In a statement, Qureshi said the ties between the two countries are taking a new turn, especially in trade, economy and defense. The Foreign Minister said both the countries are playing a vital role in the Afghan peace process. He noted the two states want to take forward the North-South gas pipeline project. Qureshi said Islamabad will also put forward its concerns regarding India during the meet. Indian troops have arrested several youths, including 2 women, in occupied Jammu and Kashmir. The people were targeted during violent cordon and search operation in different areas of the territory. Meanwhile, another Indian soldier has committed suicide in Srinagar. At least 499 Indian troops have killed themselves in the occupied territory since January 2007 to date. Russia says it opposes sanctions against the junta in Myanmar, terming them extremely dangerous. A Russian foreign ministry spokesperson said such policies would push the Burmese towards a full-blown civil conflict. In a statement, the spokesperson said a course towards threats and pressure against the Myanmar military has no future. Meanwhile, anti-coup demonstrators carried out a red paint strike in Myanmar's biggest city of Yangon. Protesters tossed red paint into the streets, representing the blood of hundreds killed by troops. According to an advocacy group, security forces have killed more than 570 people in protests against the February 1st coup. China's Navy says its carrier groups is exercising near Taiwan and such drills will become regular. This comes after Taiwan said the Chinese Air Force intruded into the island's defense identification zone. China's Navy said the aim of the ongoing exercises is to enhance forces' capability to defend national sovereignty. It said the carrier group is led by Liaoning, which is China's first aircraft carrier put into active service. Earlier, Taiwan's defense ministry said it has a full grasp of the situation and is handling it appropriately. Israel's President Reuven Rivlin has selected Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to form a new government after an inconclusive election. Netanyahu, Israel's longest-serving leader, now faces the tough task of enlisting allies for a governing coalition. Under the law, he will have 28 days to form the government, with the possibility of a 2-week extension. Rivlin made the announcement after consultations with the political parties on granting the mandate. Netanyahu received more endorsements than his challengers, leading to the president's televised announcement. Israeli troops have shot dead a Palestinian after accusing him of trying to ram his car into them at a checkpoint in the occupied West Bank. His wife, who sustained bullet wounds in the incident, disputes the military's accusation. The Palestinian Foreign Ministry denounced the incident, describing it as a field execution. Palestinian officials say they may raise the incident at the International Criminal Court. In a separate incident, the occupation forces also arrested 6 Palestinians and assaulted 2 others from across the West Bank. Jordan's Prince Hamza has pledged allegiance to King Abdullah bin Hussein after mediation by the royal family. This comes 2 days after he was placed under house arrest after being accused of involving in an attempted coup. In a letter, the prince placed himself at the monarch's disposal and vowed to remain committed to the constitution. He said the interests of the homeland must remain above every consideration, and the king's effort to protect Jordan and its national interests must be supported. The former heir denies the allegations of conspiracy. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has urged NATO to speed up his country's membership in the alliance. In a tweet, Zelensky said it was time for the military alliance to act on Ukraine's desire for membership. He said it was the only way to end fighting with the pro-Russian separatists. NATO said it firmly supports Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Earlier, Ukraine's military said 2 of its soldiers were killed by the pro-Russian separatists in the eastern Donbass region. It came as Moscow and Washington held contacts on the Donbass situation. In Russia, jailed Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny has been moved to a sick ward with symptoms of a respiratory illness. Navalny has also been tested for coronavirus after he said he had contracted a high fever and cough. In a social media post, he claimed a third person out of 15 in his unit had been hospitalized with tuberculosis. Navalny has accused prison authorities of depriving him of sleep and refusing to give him proper medical care. He has been on a hunger strike, and his team said he had already lost 8 kilograms even before the strike. In Nigeria, more than 1,800 inmates have escaped from a prison in the southeastern town of Owerri after it was attacked by gunmen. Officials said attackers used explosives to blast the administrative block and entered the prison yard. Police said the gunmen carried rocket-propelled grenades, machine guns, explosives and rifles. President Muhammadu Buhari has called the attack an act of terrorism carried out by anarchists. Police have blamed the banned separatist group, the indigenous people of Biafra, for the attack. But a spokesperson for the group has denied involvement. India has reported nearly 97,000 COVID-19 cases and 446 deaths in the last 24 hours. Many Indian states have asked Prime Minister Narendra Modi to widen the vaccination drive following a surge in infections. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 2.85 million lives and infected 131 million others. More in this report.
Nations' fight against the COVID-19 pandemic goes on with controversies around the vaccines. Mexico's president says he will not be taking the COVID-19 vaccine, arguing that he still has sufficient levels of antibodies in his system following his bout with the virus earlier this year. Meanwhile, a U.S. judge has dismissed a lawsuit accusing the World Health Organization of gross negligence in responding to the pandemic. Washington has named former U.S. Aid Administrator Gail Smith as the coordinator for global COVID-19 response. Smith said the U.S. would assume global leadership to respond to present and future health crises.
Our challenges now are two. First, to shorten the lifespan of a borderless pandemic that is destroying lives and livelihoods all over the world. And the second is to ensure that we can prevent, detect, and respond to those future global health threats we know are coming.
New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern says quarantine-free travel with Australia will start on April 19th. Meanwhile, Australia said it has not yet received more than 3 million AstraZeneca doses amid export curbs by the European Union. Over in Europe, German authorities warned that the country needs a bridge lockdown. This could include further restrictions until the vaccine rollout is at a later stage. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has given a green light for all businesses to reopen across the country from next Monday.
And the net result of your efforts, and of course with the vaccine rollout, is that I can today confirm that from Monday the 12th of April we will move to step 2 of our roadmap. Reopening shops, gyms, zoos, holiday campsites, personal care services like hairdressers, and of course beer gardens and outdoor hospitality of all kinds.
Meanwhile, in Bangladesh, at least 3 people are in critical condition after being shot by police during a protest over COVID-19 restrictions.
In Pakistan, the government says there will be no in-person classes for grade 1 to 8 in COVID-19 hotspots until April the 28th. Education Minister Shafqat Mahmood said this while talking to media after meeting of National Command and Operations Center. Mahmood said the classes for grade 9 to 12 will resume from April 19 in these districts. The decision came amid the worsening coronavirus situation in the country. Pakistan recorded its highest single-day fatalities overnight with 103 deaths and nearly 4,000 infections. The country's death toll is approaching 15,000, while the total caseload has surged past 696,000. Meanwhile, Planning Minister Asad Umar said the total number of vaccinations carried out so far has crossed 1 million. More stories to follow right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. China has reported an outbreak of African swine fever in the northwest Xinjiang region. In a statement, China's agriculture ministry said the outbreak occurred on a Xinjiang farm with 599 pigs. It said 33 pigs were infected while 6 of them died. It added the remaining 5 live pigs in the affected area have been culled. In the U.S., Minneapolis police chief says kneeling on George Floyd's neck violated the department's restraint policy. At the murder trial, Medaria Arredondo testified Derek Chauvin's conduct was against police ethics. Talking to jury, Arredondo said Chauvin did not follow his training, which emphasizes the sanctity of life. Arredondo said the use of force should have ended once Floyd stopped resisting. He added Chauvin escalated the situation even as Floyd fell unconscious.
When Mr. Floyd was no longer responsive and even motionless, to continue to apply that level of force to a person proned out, handcuffed behind their back, that in no way, shape, or form is anything that is by policy. It is not part of our training, and it is certainly not part of our ethics or our values.
Egypt says the latest round of talks with Ethiopia and Sudan over the Grand Renaissance Dam in Kinshasa have ended with no progress. Delegations from the 3 countries have met in the Democratic Republic of Congo to break the deadlock in African Union-mediated talks over the project. Egypt said the talks were the last chance to restart negotiations before Ethiopia begins filling the dam for the 2nd year in a row. Sudan's Foreign Minister Mariam al-Sadiq al-Mahdi said that Ethiopia's unilateral moves are a violation of international law. Sudan and Egypt were aligned on the proposal to include the European Union, the US, and the United Nations in the negotiations, but Ethiopia rejected the proposal during the meeting. Last week, Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi had also warned of regional instability if the country's water supply were affected by the dam. Both Egypt and Sudan lie downstream from the dam and fear water shortages, while Ethiopia said it has every right to use Nile waters long exploited by Cairo. The death toll from the floods and landslides in Indonesia and East Timor has risen to over 150. Search and rescue teams say more than 70 people are still missing in Indonesia. Indonesia's disaster management agency said it has recorded 130 deaths in a cluster of remote islands near East Timor, while the local authorities have also listed another 27 as dead. The National Disaster Agency has warned of extreme weathers for the next few days. A spokesperson for the agency said authorities are still working to evacuate remote communities and to provide shelter. Authorities say they are scrambling to shelter evacuees while trying to prevent any spread of COVID-19. In Bangladesh, the death toll from a weekend ferry capsize has risen to 34 after rescuers recovered 9 more bodies from waters near the country's capital. Rescuers are searching for other missing passengers. Officials said the boat was carrying around 150 passengers and some 50 of them managed to swim ashore. The district administration said they have begun investigation into the incident. The ferry sank in Shitalaxia River after colliding with a cargo vessel over the weekend. US President Joe Biden has struck a hopeful note as Americans spent their second Easter holiday under the coronavirus pandemic. Biden appeared on the balcony of the White House with the First Lady and a mask-wearing Easter bunny. Speaking on the occasion, Biden said the virus is not gone, and for the second year in a row, Most will be apart from their families and friends. However, the president quoted the scripture saying, "The joy is almost here."
We will rebuild our nation. We will re-engage and reimagine what we can be. We'll remember that with faith, hope, and love, anything is possible. And we look forward to next year when the White House will ring with joy of the season once again, and there'll be an Easter egg roll, God willing.
U.S. business magazine Forbes has released its list of annual world billionaires, with Amazon founder and CEO Jeff Bezos topping it for the fourth straight year. In an interview, magazine's chief content officer Randall Lane said this year's billionaires are worth a combined $13 trillion. He said the ranks of the ultra-wealthy are expanding after a year in which the COVID-19 pandemic upended the world economies. Tesla chief executive Elon Musk jumped into second spot on the list, while Microsoft founder Bill Gates and Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg are among the top 5 of the world's richest billionaires. Investor and business tycoon Warren Buffett fell out of the top 5 for the first time in over 2 decades. The U.S. Supreme Court has handed Alphabet Incorporation's Google a major victory in a copyright case. The top court ruled that Google's use of Oracle's software code to build Android operating system did not violate federal copyright law. In the ruling, the judges overturned a lower court's ruling that termed Google's move unfair. The decision spares Google of a potentially massive damages verdict, as Oracle sought over $8 billion. The two tech giants have been feuding since Oracle sued for copyright infringement in 2010. Oracle accused Google of plagiarizing its Java software, but Google said it only used elements of the code needed to run a program. A recent research says the marine life near the equator is rapidly shrinking due to climate change. Scientists warned that this may result in the destruction of the tropical marine ecosystems. More in this report.
While Cuba's marine life has been severely affected by overfishing and pollution, global warming is also taking a large toll on it. A recent research published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences has left scientists concerned about the future of the tropical marine ecosystems. The study finds that the total open water species of the equatorial marine zones worldwide declined by about half between the years 1970 and 2010. During this 40-year time period, sea surface temperatures in the tropics rose nearly 0.2 degrees Celsius.
I think that is something that's concerning, because the time period that they're looking at is actually not that long. I mean, if you're looking at geological history where biodiversity patterns or species evolution is taking place and biodiversity changes are taking place. So in a geological history, this is a blimp. So it's just a wink of an eye. And to see such rapid changes or such changes occurring so rapidly is something that's astonishing, I would say.
Marine species like fish are migrating to cooler areas in large numbers amid the increasing temperature in the tropical zones. However, moving is not an option for the species attached to the seafloor, such as corals and sponges. This rapid shift of fleets of fish and other swimmers to more temperate waters could devastate the coral ecosystems they leave behind.
There's a worry that we'll lose species that are important to us. And then the sort of whole food web gets out of whack. And that can lead to changes which are sometimes not welcome.
Cuba opened its first coral reef nursery 4 years ago to repopulate depleted reefs by researching which species coped best with warming. The country is also restoring coastal mangroves, which serve as fish nurseries and shelter.
California's famed Carlsbad flower fields are in full bloom and surprising visitors with their bright and beautiful colors. More in this report.
The flower fields near San Diego showcase more than 70 million flowers. They create an annual spectacle when the flowers bloom, drawing visitors from across California and beyond. The attraction was closed for most of 2020 due to pandemic-related restrictions.
I am so happy we're open again. After last year, it was very difficult on all of us. It takes about 9 months to get to this stage. So last year we were 9 months in and we had to mow the crop down.
Luckily for this year's visitors, plummeting coronavirus cases and California's move to the orange tier from the red tier of lockdown restrictions meant the fields could once again welcome visitors.
I've never seen a meeting like this before. I'm from Georgia, and we have, fields of all kinds of things, but I've never really been this close to like a field of flowers. So it's really cool to be out here and see all of this. And everything's so neat and organized and pretty. Yeah, love it.
The Carlsbad flower fields are also a working farm, with the blooms ending up in florists and supermarkets. They are open to the public until 9th of May.
The International Monetary Fund has again raised its outlook for global economic growth, forecasting output to rise by over 6% this year. In a news briefing, IMF's chief economist Geeta Gopinath said the forecast will mark the fastest pace of the global growth since 1976. She added the outlook comes of the steepest annual downturn of the post-war era last year as the pandemic brought commerce to a near standstill. Gopinath said the IMF is now projecting a stronger recovery for the global economy as compared to its January forecast. This year, the US economy will join China in regaining a level of gross domestic product that exceeds pre-pandemic levels.
We have for long been in favor of a common global corporate minimum tax. It is a big concern that we have a large amount of tax shifting, tax avoidance, countries sending money to tax havens, and that's reducing the tax base from which governments can collect revenues.
The total market value of cryptocurrencies has surged past $2 trillion mark for the first time. The doubling in about 2 months follows surging institutional demand. Bitcoin's worth alone is more than $1 trillion after its price more than doubled in 2021. The next 5 biggest cryptocurrency coins share a combined value of $422 billion. The institutional investors have been dabbling in cryptocurrencies as a way to boost returns on cash. Earlier, Tesla Incorporation poured $1 billion of its reserves in Bitcoin and also began accepting it as a payment for cars. The European Commission has approved a French proposal to grant $4.7 billion to recapitalize virus-hit Air France KLM. Executive Vice President said the airline will give up to 18 slots per day at Paris-Orly Airport to a rival carrier. The EU executive said France will have to present an exit strategy for the airline within 12 months unless it has reduced the state stake to below 25% by then. She said Air France KLM will be banned from paying dividends and non-mandatory coupon payments. The U.S. stocks have opened flat as investors stayed on the sidelines a day after S&P 500 and the Dow Jones Industrial Average closed at record highs on renewed recovery hopes. The tech-heavy Nasdaq Composite traded unchanged at open. The Dow Jones Index opened fractionally lower. The S&P 500 also traded unchanged at open. Meanwhile, the oil prices rose. Strong economic data from China and the U.S. helped recoup some of the previous session's losses. Tokyo Olympic organizers have postponed a water polo test event due to the coronavirus pandemic. The event was scheduled for this weekend and might now be pushed back to May or June as Japan struggles to stage the games amid a raging pandemic. Local media reported earlier that overseas officials were unable to come to Japan for the event due to strict COVID-19 countermeasures. Organizers were initially planning 18 test events in April and May, starting with wheelchair rugby on 3rd and 4th of April. The announcement comes hours after North Korea announced it will not attend the Tokyo Games because of coronavirus concerns. Japan is struggling with a surging fourth wave in the pandemic, driven by variants of the coronavirus. The Olympics are due to open on the 23rd of July. In football, Barcelona beat Real Valladolid 1-0 in the Spanish La Liga face-off. This comes as Barcelona's 6th consecutive league win. Ousmane Dembele's dramatic late winner gave Barca a huge boost in their title challenge. The French forward volleyed home from Ronald Araujo's flick on in the last minute to seal Barca's win. Valladolid showcased a disciplined yet bold performance but failed to hit the target each time. Barca now in second place with 65 points, only one behind leaders Atletico Madrid. In the English Premier League, West Ham United have boosted their hopes for the top 4 finish with a 3-2 win over Wolverhampton Wanderers. The win lifts West Ham to 4th place with 52 points, a point ahead of 5th placed Chelsea. Jesse Lingard, Pablo Fornals and substitute Jared Bowen fired the Hammers into a 3-0 lead. Lander Dendoncker, Fabio Silva pulled 2 back for the home side but failed to avert their defeat. The Wolves remain on 14th place with 35 points. Meanwhile, Crystal Palace held Everton to a 1-all draw, further dampening Everton's hope of securing European football next season. And now the weather situation from around the globe. And that's all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus News.